Hello everyone, I'm Samar and I run a company in India called Jugnoo. So this company basically is a ride-sharing and hyperlocal delivery platform for tuk-tuks. So we have these three-wheeler taxis which are somewhere between a scooter and a car, and you can hail that through our app and also we also deliver grocery and food and pretty much anything you want from within the city. But today I'm talking about a new concept and also the biggest criticism of technology that we have had so far, and that is actually the pace at which it is exploiting people. There is a big resentment, big debate going on today that technology has actually centralized resources very, very quickly, and it is exploiting people a lot. So I want to talk about the solution that we think could solve. And because we are a technology company, I think we all have to really think about these solutions. Otherwise, world will not really be a very happy place. So it all starts with capitalism and free markets, right? We assume that free markets are going to solve every problem that we had. And because free markets are efficient, all players are rational, and there are no regulations, but because there is competition, people are going to figure it out, and things are going to work itself out, right? It worked really well till these new technology companies, which is us included, we came in and rationality just changed, right? We never wanted to be rational. So what happened is artificial monopolies started to be created. Right now, today, what do we want to do? Every company is basically raising the maximum amount of capital, trying to burn its competitors out of business, and then the people on the platform, which are drivers in this case, are exploited, and once a monopoly is created, the consumers are exploited, right? You can argue that this is what capitalism is, but at the same time, I think it's creating a lot of unrest in the society, and I think we need to address this as a society first, and then companies. And because this is in part being created by technology companies like us, we think that we need to come up with a solution also. And it's just for good of everybody, because a society with unrest in it is not going to buy anything, honestly, for any company. So here's what we think what can be done, right? We feel that these marketplaces should become a little tweaked, and these are the three central elements of these marketplaces that we feel should be changed. One is that these marketplaces should be decentralized. There are two aspects to it. One is that ownership has to be shifted from just companies to people working on them. Because if you look at any big on-demand company, a major part of their workforce is really like the only investment they have, right? And the company ownership has to be shifted to them somehow. And secondly, the decision making, in this case, the pricing of rides, for example, is the most critical decision. And sadly, drivers today don't have any part to play in that, right? That is just unfair. So I think that has to be decentralized for sure, because drivers should be deciding their price. And then we want this to be dynamic, which is today also almost all the marketplaces are dynamic. There are some artificial limitations to it, but we can remove those. So essentially, people should be able to work anytime, anywhere on these marketplaces. And finally, they should be distributed. What it means is that if there's a marketplace in London and the same company is operating a marketplace in New York, they should be decoupled. If somebody is, London and New York are two very, very different markets. And these marketplaces are not really correlated in that sense that you have very strong correlations between two disjoint marketplaces. So what we are proposing is that we set up a new kind of company, right, which gives people working on that platform access or ownership in that platform, so that when the companies grow big, actually those people working on those companies, in those companies, become richer also. Secondly, they should decide by consensus in real time what the most important decisions pertaining to that platform are. And then we make it dynamic, we keep it disjoint based upon geolocations, and this is what we think will be the next step for us. So basically what we are going to do is, we are going to launch marketplaces for specific geos. We think that London could be the best place to launch because it's very friendly to the newest technologies, and to be very honest, I think if you look at the political situation, it's the right place to launch this because people are already seeing that this exploitation is hurting the drivers and because of that, consumers also. So what we do is we give drivers ownership in the platform, and the decision making, which is pricing, is decided by drivers through consensus in real time. What it means is that drivers will decide, so every driver will put in his or her price at that very moment. And because every other driver is also going to put their own price, so the final decision is going to be based upon whatever price is the consensus of drivers asking. So it's like a weighted average by region. So what happens is, if all the drivers put a lot of, ask for too higher prices, no customer is going to come to them. So people will automatically have to lower the prices. And if they ask for too low a price, the demand will automatically increase, and they'll have to increase the prices. So essentially, it's a free market model. Today, AI is doing that, but they are maximizing companies' profits. But in this case, it's a real supply-demand situation, because if you are the supplier, you have to decide the price, not a company based upon the platform profit maximization. And so there are some risks, of course, because this sounds very utopian, but there are risks. One is that nobody really buys the argument and nobody really cares about it. So then it's basically dead. I think that is a risk with any platform. The only way to find out is to do it. Second is, competitors start burning a lot of money on against this platform, and they never let it go to the critical mass, which is basically, the companies that are traditional. In this case, I think this is a test of, are people going to be short-sighted or long-sighted, right? If people are willing to take, people in this case meaning drivers, if they are willing to take short-term hits for long-term growth of themselves, I think this will work. Otherwise, it will fail. So it's a little bit of education, but also a fight between long-term and short-term thinking. And finally, what happens if drivers cartelize? So in that case, we have to make sure that it's always a supply-demand limited system, and we have to make the rules so that nobody can really cartelize. So we are already a company at scale. We do about 40,000 transactions in India every day, and we are the third largest hyperlocal company in India. And we are 3 years old, and today we want to basically see how the on-demand world is going to evolve in the next 5 to 10 years. And in my opinion, the biggest risk that this society faces today, probably before AI takes over and before other doomsday scenarios come over, is that people are very resentful against a few very powerful and rich companies because they have been left out of the growth. And I think this is the solution that we want to propose and implement. If this works, this could really mean that companies can grow and companies can become big, but at the same time, people who are working on those platforms also grow economically and socially with them. So the idea is that we will launch this in London, and we will have a limit of 24% of equity given to drivers who are working on the platform. And finally, rest of the equity, 20% of the equity will be retained by the company. 51% of the equity is going to be freely traded. So of course, on a logistics basis and legal basis, there are a lot of details to be figured out, because this is not really, this is fairly gray area when it comes to implementation. There are blockchain-based solutions which can do this. There are solutions without blockchain that can do this. We are looking at that. And in February, we will launch this. And if this works, this, in my opinion, could be the revolution that really makes tech companies social again. Thank you.